On to now some things which we talked about last time with regards to, so that was a long section on that, but obviously it's a truly tragic incident that happened. Some more things from the Vale of Glamorgan councillors meeting that we saw on the last episode, where George Carroll was being gaslit into trying to retract a statement that he didn't make. Right, where the Labour guy, Elliot Penn, I believe it is, tried to get him to retract a statement that he didn't even make, trying to make him say that he needs to retract the statement that France is a safe country, by saying that he needs to take back and say that migrants can apply for asylum in whatever country they want. They don't need to go to the neighbour country that they're next to. Right, it wasn't the point that Councillor Carroll was making. Point that Councillor Carroll was making was that France is a safe country, and so if they're applying for asylum from there, it should be viewed with massive scrutiny. Right? In many instances, it should not be accepted because it is a safe country. It has been one of the many countries, pretty much all of the European countries, which are not safe for their native populations outside of Poland and Hungary, I guess. They are safe countries. They've been designated as safe countries. So when they're going through multiple safe countries to get to Britain, there's an ulterior motive as to why. Credit where credit is due for Councillor Carroll for standing his ground. Ever since that episode, I've seen a couple more things that have... You know, I sung his praises a lot in the last episode, but I've seen a couple of images now where he's, looking very smiley. I've seen one image of him looking very smiley alongside a 20 is plenty sign. So again, that's a black mark in my book. But again, I don't know the guy. He seems to have a good head on his shoulders for the most part. But when you see things like that, it's like, nobody's perfect. At the end of the day, nobody's perfect, right? Certainly not myself, obviously. But somebody who's certainly not perfect, it would seem, and this is a case now where I can't but think that this is just the natural female mothering instinct, where these people have been driven mad by feminism because it's conned them out of their own best interests in many ways. That now that natural mothering instinct that women have is now going wild, right? And they've now gone from seeing literal children that they could have, right, if they weren't locked up in this feminist mindset and in many ways completely insufferable, right? They realized how much they've been conned out of their own happiness and their own fulfillment, that now instead of having a literal baby to, push that urge towards, right, and to actually take care of, they've now decided they need to take care of the world, right? And that means allowing all manner of third worlder in to ravage our nations, right? It won't be them that suffers. Right? It won't be them in their lovely gated communities with their high salaries that suffer. No, it'll be working class communities like mine that suffer, right? They don't care. Either they don't care or they're just stupidly ignorant of it. They can't look at the examples in England and see, where this stuff goes, bad things happen. Councillor Samantha Campbell has a migrant hotel in her community. But instead of standing up for her residents, she said that budget pressures weren't a problem. And empathy does not have country boundaries. Empathy does not have country boundaries. Well, tell that to Cardinal Sarah, for example. Tell that to Cardinal Sarah that has, said that these people should not be coming to Europe in decadence, right? They should not be coming to Europe in decadence. It's better for them to, accept the truth and accept the positives to their society via the Gospels, via Christianity, etc., in their own communities, in their own homes. Tell that to Mr. Sarah, right? And those who use, I'm not saying that, Samantha Campbell is using the Gospels or using the Bible to justify mass migration or anything like that, right? But again, people who do this, Cardinal Sarah described them as being bewitched, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think he's far off with this one, not going to lie. Here's that video for you from the Senedd Waste guys, ladies and gentlemen.
Although the county, city and nation of sanctuary statuses can be viewed as merely symbolic policies in some part, the reasoning behind it and weight that it carries is most definitely not. Born as a pushback from the hostile environment for illegal immigrants in the UK, created under previous governments, the policies are instrumental in establishing a strong base within our ever-changing communities.
Doesn't that say a lot, ladies and gentlemen? Let me pause it a minute. Doesn't that say a lot? She said there that the Nation of Sanctuary stuff, born as a pushback against a hostile environment for illegal migrants. So they're outright saying there that her ideology, which is very much in common with Plaid, very much in common with the Greens and Labour, is pro-illegal migration, is pro-invasion. Ladies and gentlemen, they do it under the guise of asylum seekers, but they're outright saying that they baby, which if you criticize, mock in any way, like I found out, ladies and gentlemen, they will call you all manner of names and they will belittle you however they can. They'll call you a chihuahua sent to bark, ladies and gentlemen. If you even use their own words to describe their own ideas. Literally they're saying it. This ideology, this system that we are prizing, pretty much above all else, is born out of a hostile environment to illegal aliens. Yeah, because we don't want them here. For the most people who aren't outright anti-immigration, for example, and due to how much we've seen the system gamed, many people have indeed become more anti-immigration as a whole, right? In many areas, right, many ways, we outright need net emigration. If you don't use the term remigration, which I do, but we need net emigration. Absolutely. For a long time. She's saying that the residents that she is for are for everybody else around the world who would use any means to come here for whatever reason, not her own constituents who she's there to protect. That's dangerous. That's dangerous. And she needs to be voted out. Guys in Glamorgan, you need to vote her out. Another thing you might want to know about Councillor Campbell, ladies and gentlemen, is that this year, somebody submitted a Freedom of Information Act request against her. It wasn't honoured, as we'll get onto in a moment. Someone by the name of Emma Robertson, and this will be linked down below if you want to go and check out this thread yourself, ladies and gentlemen, issued a Freedom of Information Act request in April of this year to the Vale of Glamorgan Council, asking them to disclose all official warnings of Councillor Samantha Campbell of the Roos Ward, the warnings that she has received because of her behaviour, including the dates and nature of warnings that were issued. She alleges that there have been at least 5 occasions that the councillor has received warnings, and it is in the public interest that these are disclosed. I would agree. They go back to her about nearly a week later, so from the 4th to the 10th, right? They go back to her, Freedom of Information Act request under the Freedom of Information Act 2000. Just again, boilerplate response. Your request is being handled. You've got this number. You should receive the information requested within 20 working days, unless the council does not hold the information or there is a reason for it to be withheld. 20 working days. So that would then put it at about April 30th. 20 working days. From their response, it would be 24th of April from the time that from Miss Robinson or Mrs. Robertson, submitted the request. But if we take it from the time that Vale of Glamorgan Council responded, it would be 30th of April. Fast forward then, ladies and gentlemen, 8th of May. 8th of May. This will be linked down below if you want to see it, ladies and gentlemen. The thread for this will be linked down below. She got back to the Vale of Glamorgan Council. I would appreciate if you could respond to my request as by law. A normal response should have been received by 7th of May. So she waited a day after the normal response should have been received, which in this case it should have seemingly been even sooner than that, right? Or maybe they have a month to respond or whatever, I don't know. So already, what would that be? So we've got 20 days, so that would be the 30th. And then, so you're looking at about nearly a month, obviously, nearly a month. It's after a month since she submitted her initial request. Still hasn't shared anything. Then, it wasn't until the 13th of May that Vale of Glamorgan Council got back to her Just we apologise, we're still awaiting a response. Told that everything that the government is doing has been supposedly to increase efficiency. Yet Ms. Robertson in this instance was still waiting. 13th of May, 2025. We have been considering the matter which has taken longer than anticipated. Then we go to the 5th of June, ladies and gentlemen, another month later, after she submitted her second request on the 8th of May. Nearly a month later. Dear FOI unit, the Vale of Glamorgan Council are now very late in their response, despite committing to replying to my Freedom of Information request by no later than May 16th, 2025. By law, they should have responded in full by May 7th, and as such, I would appreciate if you could escalate. She's tried 3 times now. Once in April, once in May, once in June. Finally, on the 16th of June, so another week and a half later, they then say, you're not getting it. We're not going to disclose the information. We believe the information you have requested is exempt in accordance with Section 40 in brackets 2 of the Freedom of Information Act 2000. This exemption covers the personal data of third parties where complying with the request would breach any of the principles in the General Data Protection Regulation, also known as GDPR, of 2018. We believe that this information would not be fair or lawful and would breach Principle A. The legal definition of personal information contained in the GDPR Act of 2018 is information that relates to a living individual who can be identified from the information or from other information held or likely to be held by the data controller. This, of course, includes names and addresses. However, it would include a wider range of other information which could be used to identify individuals. So presumably, this would not be because it would identify anything to do with Miss Campbell herself, because she would be the subject of these things. So naturally, you would expect to find out her information. Third parties, so who might we consider that be? Might be people that have submitted complaints against it, or people that have submitted the complaints against it. But surely they can just easily redact that information. Surely they could just put claimant or complainant or whatever it is and redact their information, including their addresses. Right? They could keep the nature of the complaint within there, but it seems to me as though the Vale of Glamorgan Council are trying to use the GDPR legislation in a way to stop people from finding out what the nature of these complaints were. And that is very suspect. That is very suspect indeed. Now, I'm not a legal expert. This is not legal advice. This is not me asserting that I really know anything about this law. That is just the way that I am reading it. That is my opinion. Maybe, ladies and gentlemen, you've had experience with this yourself. Maybe you've submitted Freedom of Information Act requests yourself. Maybe you've dealt with this kind of stuff. Let me know. Am I on the right lines in the comments or whatever? Or if you have any more information about this, please reach out. This is very suspect indeed. So there have been 5 complaints, 5 recorded complaints put against Councillor Campbell. Then her constituents have a right to know what those complaints were about. Her constituents, the people she represents, have a right to know what those complaints are about. Especially then, when we're seeing here, her ideology that she's pushing is not in the interest of her own constituents. It's the interest of furthering the globalist agendas that are ruining England, ruining all of our countries of Europe, etc., and will ruin Wales as well. In many ways, they already have net zero mass migration. Mass migration doesn't seem, at least if the maps on ONS are accurate, don't seem to have affected us much yet, but they certainly have affected the cities. And we're already seeing, with the small amount that we've got, with foreign councillors lying on the floors of their council meetings, right, as we talked about last time with Bablin Malik, right, that they're pushing all of this diversity and multiculturalism nonsense and labelling just regular Welsh people that are concerned about their country, concerned about the direction it's going, and seeing the government tyranny and seeing how they're using immigration as a weapon to subvert democracy, as far right, as racist, as all of these things, giving them these disgusting labels which mark them for death, make no mistake about it. Yeah, you can't blame people for being sick and tired of that. And it's definitely not in their best interests. Despite the fact that, sadly, I saw one of the elderly women that was being interviewed recently, and she said that I would never vote Labour again, but I'm going to vote Welsh, so I'm going to vote Plaid. That really did make me sad, how little seemingly she would understand how much Plaid have changed, maybe in recent times versus how they were in the 60s and so on. And obviously she would have been a lot younger. This is a old age pensioner we're talking about now, ladies and gentlemen. It was a very sad video. It's a very, very sad video. It's not the only one, though, ladies and gentlemen. County of Sanctuary supporter Emma Goodjohn says, we're part of a worldwide community. This is showing that they don't see Wales as, you know, a set nation, as a set home for a certain people, right? And that the political system should represent those people above all else. No. And that her town is built on immigration. That's a lie, ladies and gentlemen. If the census is to be believed, that's a lie. As I'll show you in a moment. Here is Ms. Goodjohn extolling, again, the virtues of diversity, multiculturalism, immigration, and so on, and just seemingly outright lying, as all of these leftists do, on the floors of their council without shame.
A county of sanctuary would provide refuge and support across our wider and local community, thereby reducing inequality for all. A county of sanctuary for all would encourage and work to build a culture of welcome and hospitality in all contexts, including hard-to-reach communities. We are part of a worldwide community where this town, the largest in Wales, has been built on immigration since the days of the docks and historically welcomed people from all over the world.
Enough of this shit. It's like saying that, you know, black people built America and stuff like that. Stephen Crowder did an amazing bit on this where I saw it the other day saying that, hang on, supposedly you have black slaves that built the great nation that is America, and in many ways they'll try to say they built Europe and all the rest of it as well, right? But then you look over into Africa and you wonder why they haven't made a super America or a super Europe manifest over there. So the fact that you have the two groups in common, because in Africa they still practice slavery, by the way, and they enslave their own people, right? You got to think, during the slave trade, bad thing happened. Where did we get the slaves from and who was selling them, right? Not to mention there's still a Middle Eastern slave trade and all around the world that's going on. Funnily enough, particularly benevolent that in Europe, throughout the British Empire and throughout the Americas, right, United States of America, that they made the decision based on greater principles and greater goods to abolish slavery, despite the fact that many others around the world still do it, selling their own brothers and sisters into slavery. But both groups have black slaves, but only one of them became massively technologically advanced. Funnily enough, when you had Rhodesia, when it was the British running it, and when they were run out, when it became Zimbabwe, all the progress, all of the technological advancements, all of the civilization that Rhodesia brought, gone. You know, they went back to living in huts and so on. Just goes to show that the narrative that Wales, the narrative that Britain, the narrative that America was built on immigration or built on, America in this instance would be settlers, but built by anything other than natives is pure bollocks. It's absolutely pure bollocks, ladies and gentlemen. If you have a look at her constituency, again, we're talking here about Vale of Glamorgan. In this instance, it would seem, because I believe this is from the same meeting. I believe this is from the same meeting. You can see here again, GDE Carroll. So I think this was the same meeting. There was the Vale of Glamorgan meeting in the Vale of Glamorgan, which you can see here, ladies and gentlemen, as I'll bring it up on screen for you in a moment. Oh, I believe my... hang on, guys. I think my... Hang on a minute. I need to refresh the page. Uno momento. Okay, right. I think I got it back. So, if you go here, ladies and gentlemen, and you check out, again, just for example, the ethnic breakdown of the Vale of Glamorgan, you will see there's 94.6% white. 94.6%. To say that it was built on immigration and all of these things, I think at least is an egregious lie that is massively insulting to the memories and to the work of our forebears and our ancestors that did build and did spend their whole lives toiling in awful conditions, right, in the pursuit of a greater good, in the pursuit of, honoring higher power, to build these lands that we take for granted. And I saw a really famous, not really famous, but semi-famous political activist Pete North. I talked about him a little while ago. I believe he took a brief sojourn in Wales recently, and he liked my post when I quote posted his thing, and it said home, because he even said that Wales is, impeccably beautiful, and it absolutely is. It absolutely is. When you get past the eyesores of the giant windmills and giant solar panels on farmland, it absolutely is. It's one of the most beautiful places on the planet, especially the valleys, and we take it for granted. Ladies and gentlemen, we absolutely take it for granted. That can be said as well for many of the countryside plains in England, right? Be said for Scotland, same could be said for Ireland. We take this land, we take our home for granted, ladies and gentlemen. And people are counting on that. Your politicians are counting on that so they can give it away to foreigners who, because our birth rates are massively declining through the floor at the moment, they're banking on those people to give them the vote so they can stay in power. They don't care if we go extinct as a people. They don't care. They do not care at all. They prefer that, probably, if anything. If it means that they get to keep their cushy job and they get to get more people in that will live off the state, live off the welfare, and just shut up and get on with things, right? Shut up and just get on with doing nothing, right? Won't care about being politically active and wanting to own a big business or whatever, wanting to actually do something with their lives. Again, to say that our communities, our country or whatever was built on immigration, in my opinion, is disgusting to the memory of our ancestors that built it brick by brick. If you enjoyed that clip, then make sure to go on over to the Voice of the Valleys X page at VOT_Valleys on X. We're also on Instagram at Voice of the Valleys. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon. Godspeed.